Warning disclaimer: this content is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not financial advice. Always consult a professional before making any decisions. Why does California REIT financing often face such complex challenges, even in one of the strongest real estate markets in the United States? In today's educational overview from Real Estate Capital and Growth USA, we take a closer look at what makes California REIT financing challenges unique in 2025, from interest rate shifts to market dynamics across major cities like Los Angeles, San Diego, and San Francisco. Real estate investment trusts, or REITs, serve as structured vehicles allowing investors to participate in income-producing commercial real estate without directly owning the properties. In California, these financing models play a crucial role in sustaining office spaces, retail centers, and residential developments. This video breaks down the 5 most common challenges observed in this field, based on public reports and market data, helping investors understand the broader ecosystem that shapes California's property financing landscape. Let's begin with one of the most widely discussed influences on REIT financing: changing interest rates. The first challenge: interest rate fluctuations. Interest rate fluctuations in California REIT financing represent one of the most dynamic forces shaping real estate capital and growth across the United States. When rates rise or fall, they set off a chain reaction that ripples through commercial towers, multifamily developments, and retail investment portfolios. In this segment, we explore how these rate shifts, driven by national monetary policies in California's high-value property market, influence funding structures, property acquisitions, and portfolio performance. This analysis remains purely designed to help investors understand the mechanics of rate movements in real estate. Let's take a closer look at how rising or falling rates reshape decision-making in the California property financing ecosystem. Market dynamics. In California, fluctuations in lending rates directly affect how REITs, particularly those financing commercial and multifamily real estate, manage leverage and capital exposure. When borrowing costs increase, debt servicing becomes more expensive, influencing both project timing and long-term valuation strategies. Certain investors adapt by diversifying their real estate investment portfolios through fixed-rate instruments or by pursuing alternative funding models like business lines of credit for Real Estate USA, which can help maintain liquidity during volatile cycles. Understanding these dynamics allows stakeholders to interpret how capital availability shifts alongside the state's evolving economic outlook. Refinancing and capital management. When interest rates decline, California REITs often find new opportunities in cash-out refinance strategies and portfolio restructuring. Lower borrowing costs may enhance capital efficiency and encourage reinvestment into commercial real estate investment opportunities or large-scale multifamily projects in cities like San Diego and San Jose. Rather than predicting outcomes, this segment examines how these patterns historically unfold, revealing how California's REIT ecosystem remains responsive to monetary changes. Broader economic impact. Interest rate movements influence not only financing costs, but also investor sentiment and property valuation across major Californian regions. For example, higher rates can moderate speculative buying, while lower rates may stimulate real estate crowdfunding platforms or private equity syndications seeking passive real estate income. Through these cyclical adjustments, REIT managers must consistently evaluate debt ratios, liquidity access, and income projections, all factors that shape California's larger property financing framework. The evolution of interest rates remains a central narrative in California REIT financing. As public market data shows, these fluctuations continuously redefine how capital moves through one of America's most complex real estate ecosystems. From shifting valuations to refinancing waves, each change in rate policy alters the pace of growth, making adaptability an essential skill for investors and institutions alike. This overview highlights the importance of understanding these movements from a structural and analytical perspective. The second challenge: regulatory environment in California. The regulatory environment in California real estate financing stands out as one of the most intricate systems in the United States. From zoning regulations in Los Angeles to environmental review processes in San Diego, each region introduces unique conditions that directly influence how REITs plan, fund, and execute property development. Rather than viewing this as a barrier, many market analysts see California's multi-layered framework as a balancing act, designed to protect community interests while supporting long-term investment stability. In this segment, we explore how this complex structure affects project timelines and financing decisions in REIT operations, providing a clear and educational understanding of what makes California's real estate financing environment so distinctive. Zoning and land use layers. California's zoning frameworks determine how land can be used, dictating property types suitable for REIT investments, from commercial real estate opportunities in San Francisco's downtown districts to multifamily properties for sale USA in growing suburban zones. These zoning layers can influence financing schedules, as REIT developers often need to align capital planning with zoning updates or city redevelopment cycles. Certain investors monitor Real Estate Syndication Deals USA to identify assets pre-approved for expansion under favorable zoning conditions. Understanding these processes helps illustrate how policy structure and capital timing must align within California's real estate investment ecosystem. Environmental assessment and compliance. California's environmental assessment requirements are among the most detailed in the United States. Before a REIT project begins, reports typically evaluate factors such as air quality, water usage, and community impact. While these reviews may extend project approval timelines, they also enhance the long-term sustainability value of real estate investments, a factor increasingly prioritized by institutional investors. By recognizing the importance of sustainability frameworks, REITs can strengthen their long-term market resilience while aligning with community-focused development principles. Permitting and approval timelines. The permitting process can significantly affect REIT financing strategies. Multiple agencies review building permits, infrastructure plans, and community integration proposals before approval. For example, a commercial real estate investment project in Los Angeles might require separate permits for structural modifications, energy systems, and occupancy standards. While this adds complexity, it also strengthens transparency and investor confidence in California's property market, reinforcing the long-term stability of its financing ecosystem. California's regulatory environment is often seen as demanding, but it also provides a structural backbone that supports sustainable real estate financing. REITs navigating this framework develop not only compliance awareness, but also operational adaptability, key strengths in a market that values both innovation and integrity. Across the U.S., few states combine environmental protection, community oversight, and property development with such precision and depth. By understanding the procedural layers shaping project timelines and funding models, investors gain insight into the disciplined balance that defines California's REIT financing structure. Challenge 3: Property valuation pressures. Among all California REIT financing challenges, few are as persistent or as complex as property valuation pressures. In a market known for its scale and speed, property values often respond to multiple forces: construction costs, local demand, and evolving commercial trends. California's property market, particularly in urban hubs like Los Angeles, San Diego, and San Francisco, experiences continuous adjustments that shape how real estate investment trusts, REITs, assess portfolio performance. Understanding these valuation shifts is not about predicting future prices, it's about recognizing the variables that define them. In this educational breakdown, we explore how property values rise and contract across sectors, and why these natural cycles are integral to the structure of California's real estate financing ecosystem. Market supply, demand, and regional variations. California's property valuation landscape is shaped primarily by supply and demand dynamics. In cities like San Francisco, limited land availability intensifies pricing, while in expanding regions such as Riverside or Sacramento, development potential helps balance affordability. For REIT portfolios, these factors determine how properties are categorized within capital assessments. Publicly available reports often illustrate that shifts in occupancy rates or tenant demand may influence the long-term value outlook of multifamily and commercial real estate investments USA, without predicting outcomes or suggesting financial direction. Such fluctuations demonstrate the natural responsiveness of real estate financing to California's fast-moving economic cycles. Construction costs and capital expenditures. Another major contributor to property valuation pressures is the fluctuation in construction costs. Rising material prices, labor shortages, and supply chain delays directly affect project expenses. For example, when steel or concrete prices rise, replacement costs for commercial properties can increase, influencing valuation models across REIT portfolios. This connection between cost inputs and asset valuation emphasizes why property appraisals in California's real estate financing market remain dynamic and multi-layered. Educationally, this helps investors grasp how valuation metrics evolve, not through speculation, but through real, observable market activity. Economic indicators and portfolio adjustments. Valuations also respond to broader economic signals such as employment trends, rental income stability, and business expansion rates. When California's job markets expand, property utilization often rises, which can strengthen commercial occupancy performance. Conversely, during slower cycles, valuations may recalibrate, adjusting asset expectations naturally. It's crucial to emphasize that these adjustments are not negative, but reflect a healthy, responsive market mechanism. For REIT financing structures, this ensures portfolios remain aligned with real economic conditions rather than speculative trends. Property valuation pressures remain an essential aspect of the California REIT financing challenges. They remind us that fluctuations are not disruptions, but natural expressions of an adaptive market. Through understanding how supply-demand balance, construction cost changes, and economic cycles interact, investors can better appreciate how REITs reflect the broader financial rhythm of California's real estate sector. This educational overview highlights that stability comes not from constant prices but from informed adaptability and transparent valuation processes. These insights reinforce California's position as both a complex and resilient real estate environment. Challenge 4: Liquidity constraints and funding. Among California REIT financing challenges, liquidity constraints represent a pivotal factor influencing how capital circulates within the real estate sector. In California's major cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, and San Diego, access to funds for property acquisition or ongoing management can vary depending on investor confidence and overall market conditions. Liquidity does not operate in isolation, it flows through multiple channels, including institutional placements, commercial lending facilities, and syndicated investment vehicles. In this section, we focus strictly on describing these liquidity patterns and the way they shape financing flexibility for REITs. Recognizing these dynamics is essential for understanding how REITs maintain operational continuity and adapt to natural fluctuations in California's real estate capital landscape. Liquidity fluctuations and investor sentiment. Liquidity availability is closely tied to investor sentiment. When confidence in the California real estate market rises, REITs often experience smoother capital access, whereas periods of cautious investment sentiment may slow funding channels. Historical data from public sources reflects these patterns, showing natural expansions and contractions in real estate investor credit USA access over different economic cycles. Understanding this behavior helps illustrate how liquidity interacts with portfolio planning, acquisition timelines, and the timing of capital deployment. Funding channels and market adaptation. REITs access capital through multiple channels: syndicated investment pools, private placements, and lines of credit for U.S. real estate. Each channel can grow or shrink depending on national economic trends and regional capital availability. Together, they shape how REITs manage liquidity and fund operations. This demonstrates the operational flexibility REITs need to navigate complex capital environments, from California to other major U.S. markets. Operational impacts of liquidity constraints. When liquidity tightens, REITs may experience slower acquisition timelines, delayed project completion, or constrained capital reallocation. Conversely, periods of abundant liquidity can accelerate investment cycles and portfolio diversification. Importantly, these patterns are purely observational, reflecting how natural capital flow impacts operational planning. By recognizing these mechanics, analysts gain insight into the dynamic movement of funds and the critical role of liquidity in California REIT financing operations. Liquidity remains a defining element of California REIT financing challenges. The natural ebb and flow of available capital illustrates how REITs adapt to changing market conditions and investor sentiment. While constraints may temporarily affect operations, they reflect an active, responsive capital ecosystem rather than a failure of strategy. By examining how funds move through multiple channels, viewers gain a descriptive understanding of operational flexibility, timing considerations, and capital accessibility in California's real estate market. Challenge 5: Market competition dynamics. Among the California REIT financing challenges, market competition dynamics are especially prominent. In major metro areas like Los Angeles, San Francisco, and San Diego, high investor interest creates an intensely competitive environment for REIT acquisitions. Institutional participants, private equity groups, and syndicators often converge on limited premium properties, driving a cycle of closely contested deals. This segment focuses purely on describing these competitive forces and historical trends, highlighting how timing, access, and scale interact within the natural ebb and flow of California's real estate market. By observing competition patterns, analysts gain insight into the structural realities influencing REIT financing across urban commercial and residential sectors. Investor concentration in high-demand assets. High-demand properties often attract multiple bidders simultaneously. In California, REIT investment opportunities in urban centers are limited, which concentrates competition around office towers, multifamily housing, and retail developments. This environment emphasizes descriptive patterns. As more investors target similar properties, acquisition timelines become compressed, and strategic positioning plays a greater role in defining portfolio composition. By understanding these natural competitive dynamics, analysts can appreciate how REITs operate in a landscape shaped by supply scarcity and investor concentration. Timing and transaction cycles. Competition often intensifies during growth phases or when major infrastructure projects are introduced. Historical transaction timelines demonstrate that periods of rapid urban development see heightened bidding activity. This shows how natural cycles of supply, demand, and investor behavior influence California REIT financing. It also illustrates why timing and readiness are key factors in property acquisition strategies. Scale and portfolio impact. The scale of investor participation affects portfolio diversity and asset allocation within REIT structures. Larger investment groups often spread bids across multiple assets, while smaller participants may focus on niche opportunities. This overview highlights the interplay between market competition and portfolio construction, demonstrating operational realities. Understanding these dynamics helps investors grasp the broader competitive forces that shape California's real estate capital ecosystem. Market competition remains a defining element of California REIT financing challenges, influencing how investors approach timing, access, and asset scale. Understanding these dynamics offers valuable insight into how REIT portfolios are structured within high-demand urban markets, reflecting the natural interaction between supply and investor activity. This overview focuses on competitive cycles that shape California's real estate capital landscape. To recap, today's overview from Real Estate Capital and Growth USA explored the top 5 California REIT financing challenges. Interest rate fluctuations, the state's regulatory environment, property valuation pressures, liquidity constraints, and market competition dynamics. Each of these elements interacts to shape how real estate investment trusts function across California's dynamic landscape. This presentation aimed to describe, not advise, offering investors a clear and factual overview of how various factors influence REIT financing frameworks in one of America's largest property markets. Thank you for watching this educational breakdown. For more factual insights into U.S. real estate financing, explore other videos on Real Estate Capital and Growth USA. Don't forget to subscribe. And see you in the next videos.